Well, hello everybody, and welcome to my podcast and my YouTube channel. And today I have my good friend Vicky Vasquez. Yeah,
Very
welcome.
well, very well done.
It's good to
Thank
see
you,
you.
Roger.
Yeah. So I invited you here because I wanted to have a little chat about some of the things that you're passionate about and that I see that have like worked in your life. Of course, we're all on a journey, but maybe like first of all, you would like to share a little bit about your spiritual, awakening or how you got into all of this, a whole area of spiritual healing and, having getting your eyes open to the spiritual world.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you, Roger, for
Mm.
inviting me. I feel very honored and humbled. Um, Basically, wow, to put it in a nutshell, um, from day one, I guess, since I was a child, I've had this contemplation, even if it was brief. Ooh, I just got a really loud ring in my right ear. What
Mm.
does that mean? It's
Something
like,
good?
hopefully, it should be good. Um, but within, you're trying to live your life, and as a child, you have, in my personal experience, we had issues in our family.
Mm.
There was a lot of drama. We had obviously some good times in between, but I remember, I think I was 3 years old when I had this, believe it or not, aha moment on my birthday. I
Mm.
think it was my third birthday party. And I was looking at my father, and he was taking a, a picture of me. And I just had this like moment of silence where I just, everything in my room, in the room, just still. And I contemplated and I said to myself, where am I, why am I here? What am I doing here?
At 3 years
And
old.
then, yeah. And I have the picture. I actually
Mm.
looked at the picture. I think it was between 2 and 4. And I see myself, I saw my face and I was really serious. I was like, but then you go back and it was like a few seconds back into the real world. And then fast forward, I was a Catholic. I was brought up, I was born into the Catholic family. And it was strict at a certain point when we were younger. And then eventually just got a little, less custom and
Mm.
traditional. Like coming with Puerto Rican background, we were
Mm.
very um, diligent. My parents, going to church on Sundays and doing the communion and then, all that stuff. But, as I started to see that, again, going forward, when I was in my late 20s, I just realized going into a dark night of the soul, my first one, I guess, I said to myself, this is not working. There's suffering still in my family. I'm suffering and I want answers, and and I started digging and I started to contemplate on the fact that the existence of God may not be.
Mm.
And as I started to read, I encountered Buddhism, and Buddhism was introduced to me by a good friend of mine in I think it was 1996, 97.
Mm.
And basically from there he told me, Vicky, I think I found a means to end suffering or to understand life. And I went to a meeting, and the first thing that really captivated me and gave me my power back was the fact that the priest at that time said, I'm not verbatim, but he said that basically we are in charge of our own lives.
Mm.
There's nothing outside of ourselves that's pulling strings or punishing you, or you are pretty much the
Mm.
one in control of your own your own future, your present moment. And for me, that's all I needed to hear to just dive into it.
Mm.
And hence, shortening up the story, 27 years later, here I am. I've been practicing for quite some time, and it has helped me tremendously to build a foundation to live my life. It was pretty much a 360 because from Catholicism to Buddhism,
mm,
when you start to really compare there's like things that you can probably, say, oh,
mm,
that's similar, but again, Buddhism is a different, it's on the different spectrum, you know, and it gave me a foundation to be able to look at life and say, and turn it around and stop pointing fingers because before it
mm,
was, it was my father's fault, it was my mother, it
mm,
was my, I would blame everything in the exterior, but I
mm,
wasn't really internalizing what was happening to me. So
mm,
in that case, Buddhism brought it inward and made me understand that, uh, long story short, it's cause and effect, it's karma.
mm,
You have good and you have bad depending on the your perceptions and your actions, how you think and what you say and
mm,
do. So that gave me responsibility.
mm,
It's, I had responsibilities now, and if I wanted to have a better life, I needed to make better decisions based on better understanding. So moving forward, 2020 came and that ship rocked my boat like many of you guys.
yeah.
And I had a couple of other Dark Night of the Souls, as a lot of us have, where again it catapults you into a different situation where you decide, you know, is this going
Mm,
to work? Is this not? Do I step back and and evaluate things? And that's what happened in 2020 for me,
mm,
because I did not agree with a lot of things that were happening. And unfortunately, all with the due respect to the organization and to the priest and to the members, you know, I didn't agree with certain things, when that
mm,
event happened. So it took me basically to take a step back and to be able to see things from my perspective and not see it from a perspective of fear. I needed to understand, okay, I'm not going to use the Catholic fear or any other type of fear to
mm,
understand the situation. I needed to go deep within and use, if I could, other modalities as well to
mm,
be able to heal myself. Because
mm,
at the end of the day, you're trying to heal.
mm,
All these
mm,
changes that you're making along your life is a path that you're trying to break these patterns that you've had
mm,
learned from your family and from generations, from past generations.
mm,
And I'd made a decision that I needed to do that for the
mm,
sake of my lineage, even though I didn't have children, but at least for my
mm,
niece or for my mother, even though I may not be able to change their point of view, but if I can change myself,
mm,
I can be an example and be able to help others, even if it's just by them looking at what I'm doing and not
mm,
saying. But again, 2020 came and it was a shocker, health-wise,
mm,
because I'll be honest with you, at the beginning, as we know, with the C-19,
mm,
I'm not sure. I was afraid at first because I didn't have the understanding.
mm,
But at that point, I decided to do a little dig. At that point, I knew I was a yoga. I had gone into yoga,
mm,
and I had been learning how to take care of the relax the nervous system, because at the end of the day, the majority of the stresses and the sicknesses is based on fear, and fear um, it basically just creates havoc in your body, mind, and spirit. So as I started to basically take a step back and then still incorporated my Buddhist philosophy and what I've learned through yoga, I I decided to learn, okay, what's really going on, because I want to be healthy. I want my family and friends not to be sick anymore. I've had too many people that I've lost along the way, and this was a moment for me to learn more. And I started to dive into what this thing was and how basically our body responds to illness. I mean, basically, I wanted to know, how do you get sick? you know?
Mm.
What is the actual recipe of getting sick? Because what I learned with Buddhism is to reverse engineer. It's like you have a cause and you have an effect.
Mm.
So the effect is getting sick, is you're sick, right? So what is the cause? How do I go back to that which got me here? So, little diving, I started to learn a little bit more about the body and so forth. And to my surprise, I and many of you have probably already know this, but the more stress is involved in the body, if you want to get sick, just stress yourself out. That's pretty much what it is. You want to get sick, stress yourself out, and then everything that we've been bombarded with through all our senses, meaning, let's say, the food, you know, you're stressed. So here you go, and you're going down with your defense mechanism, right? Which is your immune system. So that gets compromised, and then you get bombarded through all your senses, for the food, your eyes, you're seeing a lot of stressful things. You're listening to stressful things. You're smelling toxins, So all that combined, that's a great recipe for you to get sick, you know. And for us, obviously, it can go to the gut. It can, you can get sick from the nervous system. There's so many ways that your body can respond. But when we start to understand that the body is amazing, and if you take care of it, you take care of yourself
Mm.
and use that as a priority, then you start to understand, wow, we have not been educated to really take care of the body.
Mm.
We've been indoctrinated to create havoc in our body, uh, you know.
Mm.
And from my experience, I went through a lot of stress, you know, and I am, responsible for that because obviously I'm the one that is experiencing that.
Mm.
Nobody's telling me, nobody's, putting a laser or something to zap me or anything
Mm.
like that. I'm the one basically believing things that taken my power away, you know. I believed, in the Western medicine. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good things, especially in the trauma department, where if you have a broken leg or you're going into an accident, they can put you back together most of the time, so that I have a lot of respect for that. But I can tell you one experience just to give you an idea of how I started to really honing into myself
Mm.
and learning how to listen to myself, my body, my symptoms, and doing a reverse engineering kind of thing to figure out where to start so I can hackle that, and then be able to help myself. So I don't know if you're familiar with diverticulitis. I mean, I'm going to get
No,
a little bit technical here.
you're welcome to
Well,
explain. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's a disease that basically you get in your intestine, and it's in the lower intestine on the left side. Uh, Basically, if there's an inflammation there, um, I'm trying not to get too detailed because you may have people that are sensitive to listen to this stuff, but basically you get blocked. If you have inflammation on the left of your intestine, there's blockage, and that creates a lot of pain, and that can be life-threatening because if it's blocked and it can't move, it can burst. So I was having that, and I was very young. I was in my 30s. I mean, my sister had it too, but unfortunately, we got into a keto diet. Like I think it was Atkins, which was hot then. It was a
Mm.
high protein diet, but it's the worst thing you can do to yourself. But I started going into the doctor because I had a very horrible incident where I had to go to the emergency, and 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 then it happened several times, where I had to go to the doctor and they would prescribe me the typical antibiotics and
Mm.
anti-inflammatory, and they would tell me, to eat certain things, not nuts and all that. So the last time I had the episode, they told me that I most likely had to have surgery. And for me, that was like a red flag, and I said to myself, I'm not having surgery. Um, I did some research and I realized that it was inflammation, which is basically what we all get when it comes to the point where it's really bad.
Mm.
So inflammation is the thing to treat because that's where it all stems from. Um, so basically, I decided not to have the surgery, and I said, okay, I have to look into this thing. So I did my research, and I found out that it was inflammation, I ate a lot of high protein, so that really that must have been a weak area. So therefore, that area was sensitive for me, and it was that part of my body that got really uh, damaged, I guess. So I looked into it, and I started to see that people were saying, well, use aloe vera juice, and I'm like, aloe vera juice. And I said, well, I'll try aloe vera juice, right? And
Mm.
um, and I started to eat better, of course, because basically that was part of the deal. It was not just only taking the aloe vera juice, but it was I needed to make changes in my diet as well. So I took aloe vera juice as soon as I had the episode, and I tell you not, that a couple of hours later, the pain was gone.
Mm.
I mean, it was absolutely gone. And with time, as I changed my diet and started taking aloe vera juice, I haven't been pretty much zero symptoms.
Mm.
Surgery and about all
Mm.
that stuff with just replacing it with aloe vera juice in my diet and just pretty much eliminated it 90%. If I do get stressed, I'll be honest with you, I'll have a little episode, but I can tell it's because I created some stress in my for whatever situation, and that you know ignited the inflammation. But just an example is that I have many others, but that in and of itself was major for me because usually you have to go to a when it gets really bad, they do surgery, they cut off the damaged part and they put it back together, you know, and that didn't sound too good for me. So, but Roger, that I mean, that's pretty much been my between my spiritual and healing because I think it goes hand in hand. If one cannot be able to take care of yourself, it is very challenging, to have a spiritual life and vice versa, you know. So it's been a journey with both,
Mm.
and there's many other incidents as well that I don't know, maybe in another talk I
Mm.
can hone into it. But at this point, to close it somewhat, so you can maybe ask a question is that I'm honing into to having peace in my life, and that's been the major focus right now is how do I uh, come into peace, because it's okay to have a spiritual practice and take care of your health, but if you cannot have that peace within yourself that
Mm.
can create, you know, that can help your nervous system calm down and actually take care of things the way it should, it's very challenging to be running around and putting up fires,
Mm.
So
Yeah.
if there's anything else, I'll be happy to keep going.
Yeah, maybe yeah, just maybe just in a moment. I was thinking I was thinking a little bit backwards back in your story because you said you grew up like in a Catholic environment
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm just like kind of wondering because in many ways, I mean, I know a lot of people do have like really positive experiences with different versions of Christianity,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
at the same time, also because of what I've experienced and gone through as well, I realized um, that there are many branches of Christianity that
Hmm.
are. that can like bring a kind of a fear-based
Yeah.
yeah, a fear-based view of life and God and why we're here on the planet,
Hmm.
and I think in that way that can also put some kind of trauma into your body, PTSD and different things.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I've experienced, some kind of PTSD on my body
Me too. I
from
agree.
from
Yeah.
what I've been. And in many ways, it's not holistic, although a lot of Christians would say, "Oh, yeah, it is." But it's in many ways you have your life inside the church, and then you have your life at home, and for many, it's like um, it's like my view is that everything is spiritual. You know, there's not anything that isn't spiritual because um, even though we live in a material world where you can like touch things and you think it's like a whole or it's still in everything is energy, it's just how it's
Absolutely.
vibrating, I think. So like I was kind of like wondering um how how your view of religion, how it used to be, how that had affected you, or maybe even had affected your body. And yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm,
That's a good question. Um, I can tell you for sure what that the moment I just transitioned from Catholicism to Buddhism, it wasn't obviously it took a little bit of time,
mm,
but I remember the day that I just had that thought of God that was taught to me and how I let it go.
mm,
Because obviously I had to embrace my new beliefs. I couldn't have the thought of God and the Almighty,
mm,
you know, and then getting into Buddhism, which is nothing to do with a God, you know.
mm, mm,
So I remember that day. It was for me personally. It was uh, a release. It was
mm,
like my shoulders were released of something that I was carrying.
mm,
I guess maybe the guilt that we been taught to
mm,
within the in my Catholic upbringing, the
mm,
guilt, the fear, all that kind of subsided, and just like a load came off my shoulders
mm,
when I did that, because that
mm,
concept that I was holding and I was taught was not servicing me
mm,
and helping me in any way in my family as I was
mm,
observing. So for me, that was a very, very interesting moment because it was letting go of something in a second, and then all of a sudden embracing uh, the practice of Buddhism and going in that direction at that time. But then, obviously, as I transitioned into Buddhism, I had to let go of many traditions that I
mm.
had within the Catholicism. It was challenging,
Yeah.
especially for the holidays. That was something that,
Mm,
it's not part of what I practice. And
mm,
eventually I kind of let it go. And like Christmas, for it actually was another important part because I felt like it was so commercialized. You
mm,
know, I feel that the holidays are very commercialized in a way, and I
mm,
sometimes I don't see the real meaning when people come together.
mm,
It's the exchange of gifts, and something I feel, in my personal opinion, has was lost in that. But I didn't have to buy presents anymore.
mm,
I was like, no holiday shopping, no worries about, what am I gonna get? People knew, my family knew, I would tell them, I said, don't get me gifts, because I practice, but they still got me gifts anyway. But I just started doing it in the new year, so I just bought gifts celebrating the new year. So it was letting go of old patterns that did not serve me, and starting to shift into new beliefs that were forming my adulthood, and to this day. And it opened my eyes a lot because now it's not out there, it's inside. So Buddhism is bringing me inside of me,
Yeah.
and telling me obviously that all is within and I have to manifest it out,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
And and learning, and it was not just the practice, because obviously there is a ritual that we have, but it was the study. So
Mm.
it's not separate from the other. So it's not only the practice, but the study, and then taking it out in your life. So it's all
Mm.
together. It wasn't like, okay, I'm going to church and then I leave church and then I commit a sin and I go back and I,
Mm.
confess and I come out.
Mm.
It wasn't like that. You
Mm.
you practice, study, and then you share, but you're
Mm.
living Buddhism.
Mm.
And for me, it was a day-to-day practice.
Mm.
It was, how do I present myself? I mean, it wasn't perfect at the beginning because I had to learn how to see this differently and how to put it out and
Mm.
how, but as an adult, obviously in my 50s now, I look back and I can see how much good it has done to my
Mm.
life and to the people around me, even though there were a lot of my family members and people that I dated that were not open to it.
Mm.
But I remember my aunt criticized me. I went to Puerto Rico to visit her, and she knew I became a Buddhist, and she's a staunch Catholic,
Mm.
with the rosary and the saints all over. And she just got to pretty much on my face and said, "How dare you leave the Catholic Church? And you were born into it." And I was like, "Holy crap." And uh, through that time, my dad I think he already had passed away, you know.
Mm.
And I told her, I said, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to take care of my dad, you
Mm.
know. So that in and of itself gave me the strength to be able to go through certain life obstacles
Mm.
and be able to see it in a different light other than woe is me. It was
Mm.
like, what can I learn from this? It's cause and effect.
Mm.
Something happened within my relationship with my father, my family. So how do I you know learn from this and turn the suffering, because what we do is, the saying is, we turn poison into medicine.
Mm.
So we take what we think is suffering and we just shift it into a learning experience and something that will get you stronger
Mm.
and will help you navigate, the rest of your life,
Mm.
hopefully.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, 2020 came, and that shook me a bit. I was a little heartbroken because there was like everything, if there was a division, in the sense of those who didn't want to go that route,
Mm.
those didn't want to put the mask on.
Mm.
That was me. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want
Mm.
to put the mask. I just said, that's not that's
Mm.
not going to happen for me. That's not what I practice to do.
Mm.
I mean, for me, it was like mind blowing.
Mm.
But there was a divide on that as well. So it's not only in Catholicism or other religions, or, it happens everywhere. And 2020 was like the pivotal point, that moment where you started to really see where everybody was,
Mm.
you know, how, to what extent fear has taken us, pretty
Yeah.
much, you know. To this day, I just honestly, where I'm at today is that I honor everything that's happened.
Mm.
I used to sing in the choir and I loved it. And that brought me into music later on. And I like the community. I like how it brought us together, the family. So I value that. And in Buddhism, I valued everything that I mentioned to you, and much more. but 2020 again was a point for many of us, and for me, where I said, you know what, I can take a step back. I didn't want to feel the guilt. I didn't want to feel like the Catholic guilt again coming, you know. So I said, this is okay. Let me take a step back. Let me see what's happening. Let me be the observant. Let me
Mm,
observe what's happening. Let me observe myself and make and not have to make decisions at that moment. And where I find myself is still practicing to a certain extent. I'm not
mm,
like orthodox the way I was. And I'll be honest, I think this is the first time I'm actually mentioning that because I was very dedicated. I was a communicator.
mm,
I was a liaison between the temple in Washington and
mm,
Florida. So, you know, I had to be an example, you know. But that happened, and the next year I decided to move out of Miami Beach, where I used to live, and move out to the west coast of Florida. I resigned my responsibilities of a communicator and, left
mm,
others to do so and decided you know, to be in a place right now where I'm still navigating
mm,
because as we continue, as you know, things are just changing rapidly.
mm,
Disclosure is another thing that many don't know, and that's going to change a lot of
mm,
people's perspective, especially religion, you
mm,
know?
mm,
So, and the good thing that I have to mention in Buddhism is that, believe it or not, it talks about the universe, it
mm,
talks about planets, it talks about other lives. So I was already introduced to that in 1997,
mm,
within the practice of Buddhism, it was already there. It was just not talked about as, different races or ships
mm,
and so forth,
mm,
but it was already there.
mm,
And for me, then the disclosure became like, this is awesome,
mm,
Um, it's something that really intrigued me to know that the practice and the philosophy, the teachings were basically so broad and open to the possibilities of other worlds and a universe.
mm,
You know, with, well, I think that in maybe in Catholicism for sure it was not open to that.
mm.
And I
Yeah.
think if I'm not mistaken in Christianity as well, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. So if you dig, the thing is with these religious texts, if you dig deep enough and if you know
Yeah.
enough about the original languages,
Yes,
you can see in all of them
actually, you're right.
there are stories about um gods, little gods that came to Earth
Yes,
and that
you're right.
had different agendas with the
Yeah,
population, and some were good and some were not so good, and some had their own agendas, and so we
yeah.
have a lot of our religious stories, and also something I've gone a lot into, but a lot of the stories of God in the Old Testament, probably most of them
Mm.
are not actually about um, the one and only God
Oh,
or
yeah, I think
source
we
or
know that.
creator,
Yeah,
but they're about you know beings that masqueraded as gods that came to Earth. So there are a lot of good scholars that have found this out. So such as Mario Biglino, I think he is.
yeah,
He used to be a translator for the Vatican.
yeah. Hmm.
But he found out that that
Yeah,
in the book of Genesis it was more like it wasn't like God singular speaking, because it says let us make man in our image. It was more like a sky council, um, and that's
yep.
the original translation talks about a sky council. So so even if you look in the Old Testament, you'll see that even God had a father, and God had a wife. So it doesn't, if you look hard enough, you'll see,
Well,
You find the truth.
yeah. But
But that's not what they
Roger,
preach.
yeah, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it was not interpreted that way towards the assembly, the people that were going to
Yeah.
church.
Yeah, yeah. And of
So,
course,
so it was
yeah.
there, but they weren't talking about it.
Mm. Yeah, and of course they changed the old most of the books in the Old Testament were altered in a way as to show that there only was like one God. So they went over to a monotheistic faith about 700 years before Christ. So a lot of things were changed at that time, but basically it was, they had kind of worshipped all kinds of, they had worshipped these beings that had come to Earth with different agendas and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all very interesting. So yeah, we really got into the subject now of
Oh yeah, of
ETs and
disclosure.
aliens now. So maybe we should just continue with that for a bit.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean,
Um,
and actually, I wanted to mention as well that uh, for example, the founder of the Buddhism that I practice, he had encounters with paranormal stuff.
mm,
There was a time when he was going to be executed, and this is based on a true story. Um, he before the that scene that he was going to get executed, he was visited by an orb, bright
mm,
light, and I cannot remember I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what happened and what was said, exchanged, but I remember him saying that basically he was visited by the sun or the moon in a spiritual way. But when he got to the execution site, um, he just came into the position of, cross-legged position, Swastikasana, what you're calling yoga. He took his beads, he placed them in his hands, and he started to chant the mantra. He had a samurai doctor called Shinjo Kingo who came uh, so upset to watch his master because the government basically wanted to eliminate him. The founder, Nichiren Daishonin, wanted to eliminate him because he was trying to speak truth. Hence, what happens to people that
mm,
that want to come forth with information that's helpful for humanity. They get prosecuted, and some of them get killed. In
mm,
his case, he told them, "Don't be a fool." He says, "This showing you what happens, when the truth comes out and so forth." He said other things, but basically, his disciple, I guess, was even wanting to commit, the samurai death with him, you know, and he said, "Don't be foolish, just." So he continued to chant his mantra, and this was at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, on the outskirts of a beach in Tatsunokuchi, in Japan. And he was sitting down, and he was just stoic, chanting the Nam-myoho Renge Kyo mantra. And all of a sudden, this bright, luminous object came from the sky and illuminated the whole ground of where the executioner and other soldiers and people were there to witness. And everybody was so freaked out that they just ran. They ran just as the executioner was already holding the sword to
mm,
behead him. So things like this happen in history. I mean, and it's amazing because I feel that there's certain important figures in our life that come through our lives through history, that when you see things like that happen, you know that they're meant for that time.
mm,
They're meant to do something very important at a certain time period
mm,
of history. We can say that uh, about Jesus,
mm,
at that time. Shakyamuni, which is the historical Buddha.
mm,
Um, we can say that about certain people that, that are trying to say the truth right now, and their lives can be compromised, you know. So it's very fascinating to read history, to practice, in my case, something that has shown me that, when one wants to, vocalize their truth, that can be very uncomfortable for people, or for communities, or for the government, in that case. But now we're coming to disclosure,
Mm,
and this is going to change so much. And I feel that it may have to be gradually, because imagine if it was just put out there from one day
mm,
to another. I don't think many people would mentally and emotionally be ready for it,
mm,
right?
exactly.
So I feel that there's a reason for the timing,
Mm,
and but it's going to change a lot of people,
mm,
in many ways. Some
mm.
are very good, and some maybe not so good. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and I think like um, I think it's going to be hard on maybe more the religious communities, because when you've been brought up to think that there is there's a God in the sky that is looking
mm,
down and judging everything that you do. Um, that's kind of and you're brought up to believe that you only have this one life, that they interpret the amnesia that we have when we come into this world as like, okay, that's just your one life that you have, and then you live this life, and then you go to the good place or the bad place afterwards. And I think that's people that have this mindset. It's going to be tough. I think it's going to be hard to realize that that there is a galaxy out there. There are many galaxies, and um, there is life in many different places in our own solar system. There's like lots of life that people don't even realize. Rest of the galaxy and all the other galaxies, and they don't they're not Catholics, and they're not Christians, and and they're not Muslims, and they don't have any
you're not Buddhist.
yeah, not Buddhists either. I mean, they have their own philosophies, and some ways of looking at who what the quantum field is, or what some people, or the indigenous people, would say great spirit or source, or there's so many ways to describe all that is, and it's almost undescribable in a way. Um, so yeah, I'm wondering, how would you um, yeah, I'm wondering how, I do agree with you. It has to be a slow rollout, but how would you like tackle this whole thing of what to do with people that maybe have a hard time giving up some of these religious theologies, um, in order, with seeing what's coming.
It's going to be hard for some to give it up.
Mm,
I mean, imagine, with what happened with the C-19,
mm,
there's still people putting masks on. There's still people putting, you know.
mm,
So unfortunately, there may be people that will still look away and still
mm,
want to keep that reality that they know
mm,
as what they, want to continue living.
mm,
Now, there's going to be people that will gradually accept it. I think it'll be slowly. And obviously, us, we will be like, let's go for it, man. We're ready.
yeah.
We're just damn ready. Oh my gosh, I've
I
been
was ready
waiting for
yesterday.
I was ready, yes, since I was born. Since I started
Yeah,
crying out of the womb, I'm like, bring
yeah.
him
Yeah.
on. Oh my gosh. What times are we living? I mean, I'm just sometimes I'm in awe to know that we're living in these times.
Mm,
I mean, exactly at this time. not
Mm.
the 15th century, not, right now.
Yeah, you've
I mean,
got,
maybe who knows? Maybe we were living then, you
yeah,
know, past life.
exactly. I mean, you have this feeling at the moment that, it could all break out anytime. And it's like, it has to be gradual, but like, it's almost like you have this feeling that free energy could just be around the corner and more other things that, you know, technology and things like that, that hopefully we can integrate without regressing in any way. That's also the challenge as well, that, being advanced as a society, advancing spiritually, and being able to handle the technology without regressing again. Um, but yeah, I think I have a lot of hope for humanity because I think that we've been we've been controlled and we've had some people at the top that haven't had our best interests at heart, and that's been part of our conversation tonight also about what has happened in the last 4 or 5 years as well. Then it's all, but people are beginning to see that that's the case slowly, but they see it's they begin to see it's the case. Um, so yeah,
Happen.
I think it's going to happen. It's good things are happening. I definitely think.
Yeah. Do you feel they're accelerating?
Sorry?
Do you feel that they are accelerating? Because
Yes,
I
yes.
feel it.
Oh
The
yeah, definitely. Definitely. Um, yeah, and I think like your man on the street, your Joe and your they're gonna also begin to see it in a while as well. But maybe I don't know. Do you have any like experiences that you've had with with otherworldly entities or ETs or either telepathically or otherwise?
I've had a handful of situations. Um, I've had for the past 2, 3 years, I started to journal my dreams
Mm,
because I was having a lot of, insights through my dreams. Um, I never would, record my dreams because I was taught that, that was just mumbo jumbo,
mm,
stuff and crazy stuff. But then I'm like, now that I'm paying attention, I'm like, no, these dreams are telling me of either a past life or a current situation that I'm not aware
mm,
of, where I have experienced being off world, on ship, you know, and and being in situations where I'm in the presence of someone, another male figure, and I'm having a telepathic communication, you know, and I'm voicing out, things that I'm like very stern about and saying, you know, this is not going to happen to us anymore,
mm.
And I don't think I've talked about this dream, but if you want, I can briefly tell you about
Oh,
it.
it sounds exciting if you want to, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't talked about this because obviously, I want to make sure that I'm not claiming to be anything. It's
Mm,
a dream that I had. I think it was a year and a half ago or so. And I was basically looking up in the sky and I had this male presence next to me. And the sky was blue and I saw this um black, it was like a disfigured cloud, but it was like black. It was just kind of disentangling itself.
mm,
I don't know if that's the right word, but I was looking at it and I was saying to my male presence, I said, it will never take over us again. You know, that was the end of it. Pretty much as
mm,
I don't remember exact word, but I said that was the end of it. You know, and as soon as I said those words, that entity, whatever it was, came through me. And it was the most evil sensation that I could have felt in that dream. It was, and I've had incidents with that in this lifetime,
mm,
in flesh and blood. But in that dream, I sensed, not only did I see, but I sensed the feeling of how that entity was very bad, you know? And then I had this um, image of robotics, like robots, shadows, and but what it was trying to tell me, that was, I think it was artificial intelligence or something to that effect. It was something non-human, or it was a combination, you know. And as soon as that happened, I mean, obviously, for me, I'm just like trying to put it all together. In the morning, I'm like, what the hell was that? You know? But I was very, I was very stoic and very, determined to, I knew exactly what was going to happen.
mm,
I sensed that thing go through me, but I let it go through me. I didn't cave in, you know? And then I saw these images of robotic images trying to tell me, I guess, that it was, I guess, non-human or a combo, who knows? But I had that male presence with me and I was talking to him telepathically.
mm.
So I didn't see myself. It was just all in observation. But it was a very telling for me,
So,
you know.
like, was the male presence, was it a benevolent
Yeah,
presence? Okay, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the male presence and I felt we were benevolent,
Mm,
because
mm,
obviously then the contrast of the malevolent
mm,
force was
mm,
I was it was there.
mm,
But it was like a you know, like put in stone, this
mm.
is never going to happen to us again.
So
Yeah,
this could be, do you feel this could be someone that you have like a past life with or a history
probably,
with? Yeah. Mm,
probably.
mm.
Yeah, yeah, I've had,
Interesting.
yeah, I do
Do
have,
you remember what they look like? I mean, did you remember the
I
form
couldn't
or
see
no?
them.
No, no.
I couldn't see the visual, but I can tell you that the feeling was power, it was
Mm,
powerful.
mm,
And, but it was, yeah, it was, I have other dreams that I've journaled, but I
mm,
guess one day I'll talk about them more, but it's
mm,
been, but it's only happened like the last few years,
mm,
um, and, paranormal stuff that happened in my family and
mm,
that happens since once in a blue moon happens with me.
mm,
But I've had the how do I say this? That's why health is important too, because when you're in fear, you lower your life force too,
mm,
And when you do that, you let other entities can come in. They can just say, "Oh, this one's low battery. Let me go in there and and play havoc." I
mm,
and I had experience when I was in my low points, dark night of the soul. Some of these uh, in, times in my life, I felt them. You can feel it, and if you don't know what it is, you don't know how to say no. You know. So thank goodness that I eventually knew what it was, and I said no, and you got to get the F out of here. Because they do. Some people don't know, and sometimes they're just lingering in your space. And and I've seen it on some people. You can tell when some people are
mm,
just not there, and
mm,
they're part of them is there, but it's not. I
mm,
don't know if that makes sense.
mm,
But some people that are going through a lot of rough time and that can get out of certain emotional states, I sometimes believe that there's energies
mm,
that don't help, you know.
mm,
So, but that's why it's important to keep working on increasing your vibes, your high vibes, your frequency with things that
mm,
are loving, you know.
mm.
Um, that's something that I have to learn, that I've had to learn, is just focus, because when you're in fear, you're mainly in your brain.
mm,
You can't be in your heart. You can't be in both places. Fear is here, love is here, but you want to put
mm,
them, connect them both together.
mm,
So that's why right now where I'm at is just encouraging myself and others to continue to bring the love and compassion
mm,
within themselves, to bring peace, whatever it takes to bring peace in your surroundings, within yourself. Right now, we have so much information coming in that if I don't manage it, it can
mm,
drive you nuts, you know. So it's important to try to, clear your space,
mm,
come to center, be the observer, you know, whatever it takes to bring you at peace and calm and into your heart.
mm,
Either music, dance, laughter,
mm,
grounding, going out, getting some fresh air, go for a
mm,
walk, go to the ocean. All those things really um, bring you to your center. And the more you do it, the more clarity you have
mm,
and purpose. And so
mm,
uh, that's pretty much where I'm at right now when it came
mm,
to my journey up to this moment.
mm. Yeah, that's great.
It's yeah, it's to bring all
Mm,
that together and to be an example, at least an example to
mm,
others. You can't change people, but you can guide as much as you can, encourage. Um, but that, people like babies that they learn by looking at you,
mm,
you know. So if they see you, they feel you, they want to gravitate to you if you're doing good things, you
mm.
know. Um,
One thing I was just as like a comment, I don't know what your experience is at the moment, but one
mhm.
thing I was like thinking about like recently is like the animals. They seem to be like more um they seem to have like more trust towards like me. And I think generally it's like I feel like when I go for a walk, sometimes I see horses, and like the other day, like they just came running towards me, and then one of the horses let me touch it, and I've like
Aw.
almost never had that before. So it was like, in other situations where I see animals are like much more
Mhm.
seeking contact with humans. So I think they're sensing the change, aren't they? Would you say the
Absolutely.
same? Mm,
They sense the change in you.
mm,
They
mm,
gravitated to you because they sense you. And they're
mm,
very intuitive when it comes to that.
mm,
They can sense when somebody's not good.
mm,
The animals have a lot of intuition when it comes to that. So
mm,
they just sense you, and they notice your heart and your frequency, and they were like, "Oh, a glowing
mm,
being."
mm. Yeah.
Yeah, especially horses. Horses, I've heard they have so much. I there's this a lady that I see on my Instagram. I have her on my Instagram. She does healing session with her horses,
Mm,
and it's the most beautiful thing. I mean, sometimes I'm
mm,
like in tears because the horses, she lays them down on a bed outside, her clients,
mm,
and the horses, they just come on their own, and they come and
mm,
they stick their nostrils here, or they come and they put
mm,
their nostrils here. I mean, they know where to go, and they just
mm,
stay there,
mm,
and it's just amazing.
mm,
Yeah, but I think that's a great point, Roger. I think that the more the humans are coming into their own nature, I think the animals get closer to us,
mm,
and we go back to that which was how we used to be. We
mm,
were in contact with nature, with the animals, and our earth, which is so important for our
mm,
healing. You know, and we're not just two entities. We always
mm,
tend to, you're here, I'm over there, and earth is here, the animals are there.
mm,
But there's, when we vibrate and our frequency is in a good place, even bees, won't bite you, or butterflies come, or you start to
mm,
watch nature, and nature is there and it's communicating with you. So
mm,
that's wonderful.
mm.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I love it. Yep.
Do you have any, like, I was just wondering if there is somebody watching this that is maybe like having some issues with their body or issues with like any sicknesses that they have in any way. Of course, we're not giving, medical
Explaining.
advice in any way, but what would you say to someone who wants to like explore more the natural way of healing?
Oh, wow. I can tell you from my experience that I had to humble myself, you
Mm,
know, and I had to say, I don't know. At the beginning, I just didn't know, So from there on, I just said, okay, what can I do to help myself? So asking the question, what else can I do to help myself be healthier and help others, And believe it or not, as you start inquiring, things start to happen, you know? And the intention, you getting in and starting doing some research, learn about how your body works, you know, learn how, there's modalities that can help you lower the nervous system, because again, a lot of it starts from the stress, either stress from the environment, everything that's going on, traumas, the food. So address the stress, address how do you relax yourself? How do you come to a place of peace and tranquility so your body can do what it knows what to do, you know? But not only that, obviously, use all your senses to create that. What do you smell? What do you eat? What do you see? Do you see
mm,
crime movies at night? Who killed
mm,
who and how do they kill them? I think maybe you should not stop watching that, in my opinion. I respect everyone's choices, but I mean, these are things that are going in your subconscious, what projects everything you hear, music. That's another thing. If you're gonna listen to a rap that talks about, negative things, or hip hop, or anything that just has a chorus that you like the beat of it, but the words are just really bad,
mm,
all these things, believe it or not, are conducive to getting you out of whack. Yeah,
mm,
you're a fine-tuned instrument, and all of a sudden you're untuned,
mm,
and you need to tune it to what your beautiful, healthy frequency is.
mm,
So start by learning about your body, become compassionate and patient with yourself, open to many things, possibilities of how to use what already nature has given us, essential oils, stretching with yoga, quiet times, meditation,
mm,
stillness, nature. All that is healing, you know, and it's amazing. And when I feel stress and I feel jittery, for whatever happened, I just go outside and take my shoes off and start walking on the grass, you know. And
mm,
I tell you not, immediately it starts to work, you
mm,
know. And it's just, you know, as easy than popping a pill,
mm,
You can just actually go outside your yard, any patch where it's green, just take your shoes off and just breathe the air, take the sun, and be grateful.
mm,
That's one thing that I do. I try to keep a ritual in the morning. This is what I like to emphasize. To leave it uh, like this is to create like a sacred ritual in the morning, And I would recommend this like in the morning, where you get up before you grab your phone, before you get involved in any electronics or conversations or work. Just give yourself time before all that to just come into your breath, into silence, and just to do a breath work. I'll start doing breath work, And then I'll start doing, I'm grateful for this. Even though I may not feel it, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I woke up this morning. I'm grateful that I'm breathing. These little grateful moments and appreciative moments really will start your day with a better attitude instead of waking up and grabbing phones or starting again your day with, some chores. Prepare your morning for that moment and give yourself that quiet time to go for a walk, stretch, but at least the breath work and the gratitude and then getting into that heartfelt place and then visualizing how your day how your day will how you visualize your day to be, you know and and that starts rolling through the day. If I don't do that, my day will probably be all over the place
Mm.
sometimes. So, but that's, I mean, in a nutshell. I hope it wasn't that much, but you know be patient with yourself. It took a long time to get to where you're at, so just be patient and take that time.
Mm.
Don't rush yourself. Yeah.
Thank you. I think
Thank you.
that's excellent advice, Vicky. So definitely, I definitely resonate 100% with what you said there. So yeah, absolutely great.
Thank you, Roger.
Mm.
I'm still in the journey,
Mm. Yeah, we all are. We
you
all
know.
are. And we all run into we all run into days where we just wish, we'd like a rescue.
Absolutely. But you know what? I was thinking about this week. I'm like, they want us to be the rescue,
Mm.
you know, because there's nights and days that I go, oh my gosh, how much more
Mm.
can we take, and but it just makes us stronger, you
Mm.
know, and
Mm.
eventually we'll be more clear about it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you, Vicky, for coming and having this
Pleasure.
little chat with me. It's been really great and fascinating, and to hear more about your background and what you've been working with. So,
Thank I
thanks for
appreciate you.
coming onto this show podcast, and yeah, I just
Till
wish
next
you the
time.
best, and then maybe
Same
next
here.
time we'll talk about something else. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think this is great. I think our community is very loving, and
Mm.
I hope we can see different faces in
Mm.
your interviews.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
you're welcome.